In Argentina, with most of the votes counted, the leftist opposition coalition Fuerza Patria wins the Buenos Aires provincial election, defeating the government of Javier Milei. The Venezuelan government has announced plans to reinforce its military deployment in order to combat drug trafficking within the country. And leaders of the BRICS group held a virtual summit to address the effects of the U.S. tariff war. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. And we begin with the information. We were saying it at the beginning. In Argentina, the Peronist opposition coalition Fuerza Patria has won with a wide advantage of 13.08 percentage points over Milei's far-right-wing alliance Libertad Avanza in Buenos Aires provincial election, a sector that they were already ruling, but this confirms their electoral support. On Sunday, 23 provincial senators, 46 provincial deputies and their alternates were elected to renew half of the legislators in each of the two legislative provincial chambers. Municipal authorities were also elected in 135 municipalities of the province of Buenos Aires. The opposition coalition led by Peronist Governor Axel Kicillof obtained 47.20% of the votes, while the far-right Libertarian Party obtained only 33.86%. This is the hardest electoral defeat faced by the government of Javier Milei, a little over a month ahead of the national legislative elections that will define the second half of his mandate on October of 26.
Un mensaje. Después de lo que ocurrió acá.
A message. After what happened here, whose reading we cannot exaggerate, because they themselves said what a triumph of theirs, of our government, in the province meant. They are going to have to rectify the course. They are going to have to rectify the course. The ballot boxes told President Milei that public works cannot be stopped. The ballot boxes explained to him that retirees cannot be hit. The ballot boxes, with a 13-point difference, explained to him.
And for his part, Argentine President Javier Milei confirmed the defeat of his party.
What we have to be clear about is that, without any doubt, today we have had a clear defeat in the political sphere. And if someone wants to start to rebuild and move forward, the first thing to accept are the results. And today, the results have not been positive, and we had an electoral setback, and we have to accept it.
And on Monday, citizens in Buenos Aires reacted to Sunday's key election results that meant a hard blow to the Libertarian government.
Until I saw the results, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what was going on with the people, with the nation, whether they still supported this government and its policies, or whether they wanted this to end. And this at least gives us hope that things will improve. Because the truth is that we are in a very bad situation. I think things have to change, because we really can't go on with this president. I mean, he's very perverse, I think, and he causes a lot of pain to people. People can't live in anguish, they have to move forward, they have to have hope.
And in this context, the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, also commented on these results. In his profile on X, he expressed that the resounding victory of progressivism in the legislative elections in Buenos Aires, Argentina, is a clear rejection of liberal policies and the reaffirmation of the Argentine people's commitment to a national model that prioritizes collective well-being, sovereignty, and the defense of human rights, as opposed to policies that seek to dismantle the state and make life precarious for the working class. Also, Arce added that this victory of the Argentine people is a rejection of privatization, social inequality, and neoliberalism, and its austerity schemes that only benefit a few. We salute the victory of the Argentine people who, united, have achieved this great victory. And in this context, the Argentine stock exchange on Wall Street plummeted on Sunday after the electoral setback of the far-right Libertad Avanza led by President Javier Milei. Argentine stocks fell by up to 15%, which represents a country risk exceeding 1,000 points. Faced with uncertainty over the continuity of the economic program promoted by the Argentine president and the economic minister Luis Caputo, the Argentine market reacted harshly, impacting key companies such as Transportadora de Gas, Loma Negra, and Central Puerto. The Galicia Financial Group and the BBVA Commercial Bank led the losses, with figures reaching double digits. We continue now with other topics. In Puerto Rico, hundreds of people protested against the increased presence of U.S. troops at the Muniz Air National Guard base. The demonstration, called by the Mothers Against War social movement, responds to the deployment of United States warships in the Caribbean and Pacific coast, a fact that aroused the concern of the demonstrators. The protest demands the end of the militarization of the Puerto Rican territory, while denouncing the environmental and sanitary damage derived from the military operations in Vieques and Culebra, two islands off the coast of Puerto Rico. And in Cuba, the Ministry of Energy and Mines reported on the progressive restoration of power service in the eastern region of the country. After an outage on Sunday night, authorities confirmed that service had been restored in the province of Las Tunas, marking the beginning of a recovery. Afterwards, the Holguín substations were powered up, and during the early hours of Monday morning, several areas of Santiago de Cuba also received power. The power company emphasized that the national electrical system continues to operate normally in the center and west of the country, and that in the eastern region they are working continuously to complete the total recovery of service. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. The Venezuelan government has announced plans to reinforce its military deployment in order to combat drug trafficking within the country. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez announced that 25,000 troops equipped with riverine and drone resources will be deployed to coastal, riverine, and border regions. Padrino Lopez also stated that the military reinforcement will cover the states of Zulia, Falcón, Nueva Esparta, Sucre, and Delta Amacuro, as well as the eastern regions of the country. The measure aims to strengthen national sovereignty and combat illicit activities such as drug trafficking amid the interventionist deployment of the United States in the Caribbean. And on Monday, Venezuelan Defense Minister Padrino Lopez also reported on the progress of operations against drug trafficking carried out by the National Bolivarian Armed Forces. As part of Operation Iron Hand and the Bolivarian Shield strategic operation, more than 980 tons of drugs have been seized and organized crime groups have been dismantled. Likewise, firearms and ammunition were confiscated and destroyed. The defense minister highlighted the work of tactical units deployed on the Colombia-Venezuelan border, as well as the National Guard, whose citizens' attention points have been fundamental to maintaining internal order. Vladimir Padrino Lopez also reaffirmed the National Armed Forces' commitment to defending democracy, the homeland, and territorial integrity. And we continue in Venezuela because the Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, denounced the false narrative used by U.S. imperialism trying to describe Venezuela as a drug trafficking state and justify a military action. The Venezuelan Vice President condemned the U.S. double standards and recycled strategies as the one used to invade nations like Iraq under the false allegations of weapons of mass destruction. Vice President Rodriguez presented the UN World Report on Drugs that for 27 consecutive years has described Venezuela as a country free of production, harvest, and transit of illegal drugs. The UN report shares these same figures as that of the DEA yearly report, showing the Pacific as the main route for drug trafficking towards the United States.
Durante estos 27 años seguidos, Venezuela no
During these 27 years running, Venezuela has not appeared as a relevant country in terms of illicit drugs, stupefying or narcotic substances. I repeat, Venezuela, according to international standards, is not a relevant country when it comes to narco-trafficking or its related crimes, and that has been informed in all these reports from 1999 to 2025.
And in other news, on Monday, leaders of the BRICS group held a virtual summit convened by Brazil in response to the West's illegal actions and trade issues and to discuss the effects of the U.S. tariff war. The meeting was attended by the presidents of Russia, China, Brazil, and South Africa, as well as India's Foreign Affairs Minister. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva sought to mobilize the BRICS group in defense of multilateralism and a more equitable economic order. In the face of unilateral coercive measures, BRICS leaders have discussed ways to strengthen the bloc's economic sovereignty, working alongside the United Nations and the World Trade Organization.
As we speak, transformation unseen in a century is accelerating across the world. Hegemonism, unilateralism, and protectionism are getting more and more rampant. Trade wars and tariff wars waged by some countries severely disrupt the world economy and undermine international trade rules. At this critical juncture, BRICS countries, standing at the forefront of the Global South, should act on the BRICS spirit of openness, inclusiveness, and win-win cooperation.
And in addition, the president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, emphasized that the Global South has the necessary conditions for the development of multilateralism and to prevent a new Cold War.
El sur global tiene las condiciones para promover un nuevo paradigma de desarrollo.
The Global South has the conditions to propose a new development paradigm and reject a new Cold War. The Indian presidency of the future BRICS meeting will have the full support of Brazil to follow these ideals. The G20 summit, chaired by South Africa, will also be an important forum for broad debate on the possible paths we can follow for the international order. Unilateralism will never lead us to achieve the peace, justice, and prosperity that our predecessors envisioned in 1945. The BRICS are already a new name for multilateralism.
Ya son un nuevo nombre para el multilateralismo.
And during the second Global South 2025 Media and Think Tank Forum in China, the impact of U.S. cognitive warfare was addressed from different perspectives, as it was also stressed that the damage that the cognitive warfare has done to global development and peace. The document, entitled Colonization of the Mind, the Media, Roots, and Global Dangers of the United States Cognitive Warfare, analyzes how U.S. hegemony in the political, economic, and military spheres is used to ideologically dominate the masses. The report, subscribed by 500 representatives of 260 media, including governmental agencies from 110 countries and regions, denounces the serious damage that this type of practice causes to development and the preservation of global peace. And in other news, the South Korean government announced on Sunday that 300 workers detained after a massive immigration raid at the Hyundai plant in the United States will be released and brought home. On Friday, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE detained 475 people, mostly South Koreans, during a raid on Hyundai's Georgia manufacturing site as part of the ongoing anti-immigration policies by the administration of President Donald Trump. The Chief of Staff, Kang Hong-sik, said that South Africa and the U.S. finalized negotiations on the workers' release, adding that the country plans to send a charter plane to bring the workers home as soon as remaining administrative steps are complete. Local media reported Foreign Minister Chung Eui is to leave for the United States for talks related to the workers' release precisely.
As a result of the swift and united response by government ministries, economic organizations, and companies, negotiations for the release of the detained workers have been concluded. Only administrative procedures remain, and as soon as these are completed, a chartered flight will depart to bring our citizens back. Our government will remain vigilant and respond responsibly until all our citizens are returned safely.
And in Nepal, the Kathmandu police fired on protesters that were demonstrating against the government's social media blackout on Monday, killing at least 10 people and injuring dozens more. The situation in the South Asian country heated up following statements by the opposition against the government's ban on Facebook and other social media platforms that violated the regulations of the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. The measure comes after an order issued by the Supreme Court, which instructed the government to ensure that all online and social media platforms register officially before operating in Nepal. Despite facing criticism from the country's opposition, the government maintains that stricter regulation is essential to stop harmful content. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. We continue with more information. In this case, we go to Palestine, as in the last few hours, the Israeli occupation regime has bombed a building housing displaced Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The destruction of the residence left one person dead and several wounded, while the tents in the vicinity of the building were completely ruined. On Monday, the continuous Zionist aggressions against several localities in Gaza caused the death of at least 40 people and obstructed roads, impeding emergency teams from saving the victims trapped under the rubble. Since October 7th of 2023, more than 64,520 Palestinians have been killed, most of them women and children. And in Palestine, the Hamas resistance movement claimed to be ready to negotiate immediately a ceasefire agreement in Gaza, emphasizing the need to see explicit assurances that Israel will comply with this agreement and not break the negotiations. The Hamas Islamic Resistance Movement has confirmed that it received proposals sent by the United States government aimed at achieving a ceasefire in Palestine and welcomes any efforts that contribute to ending the Zionist massacres of its people. The organization reiterated that Palestine is ready to sit down immediately to discuss the release of all those held in exchange for a clear announcement of the end of the genocide, the complete withdrawal of the Israeli army from Gaza, and the formation of a Palestinian committee to administer the enclave, which would begin its administration as soon as the truce came into force. And we continue on topic because the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced a series of measures against Israel, including an arms embargo on sales, a ban on accommodating fuel ships for Israeli soldiers in the country's ports, and a ban on all aircraft carrying Israel-bound weapons from entering Spanish airspace.
La primera es la aprobación.
The first action is the urgent approval of a royal decree law that legally consolidates the arms embargo to Israel, which we have already been de facto applying since October 2023, and establishes the legal and permanent prohibition of buying and selling weaponry, ammunition, and military equipment to Israel. Secondly, along with this embargo is the prohibition of transit through Spanish ports for all ships transporting fuel destined for the Israeli Armed Forces. Thirdly, the denial of entry into Spanish airspace for all state aircraft carrying defense material bound for Israel. Fourthly, the prohibition of access to Spanish territory for all those individuals directly involved in genocide, human rights violations, and war crimes in the Gaza Strip.
And more international reactions. In Sweden, a massive demonstration gathered in the city of Gothenburg to condemn the massacres, famine, and murder of journalists by Israel in the Gaza Strip. The demonstrators raised their voices in solidarity with Palestine, waving flags and chanting slogans condemning the Israeli aggression against Gaza. They also denounced the lack of international action in the face of the crimes perpetrated against unarmed civilians. The murder of journalists and the humanitarian crisis used as a weapon of war against the Palestinian people. They also urged the Swedish government and the international community to act to end the genocide, lift the blockade, and hold the Tel Aviv regime accountable for the violation of human rights. Meanwhile, in Belgium, around 70,000 people formed a human red line to ratify their commitment to the defense of the rights of the Palestinian people. Convened by human rights organizations, the activity highlighted the urgent need for humanitarian aid to attend to the victims of the invading army. The organizers underlined that the red line seeks to communicate to the governments of Europe a strong message: the need to end collusion with the Israeli occupation and to implement strong actions to safeguard citizens in the Gaza Strip. And from Mexico, the Puerto Rican rap artist René Pérez, known as Residente, denounced the genocidal and oppressive policies of the Israeli regime against the Palestinian people in front of an audience of 180,000 people. From the Zócalo in Mexico City, the artist took a stand, even with his outfit, wearing a Palestinian kufiyya and a sweatshirt that read "Free Palestine." Residente condemned the Zionist aggression while urging the governments of the world to increase the pressure on Netanyahu to stop the massacre in Gaza. During the event, the Caribbean performer invited to the stage a family of Palestinian refugees who received a standing ovation from the audience. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Verendra Santos. Thank you for watching.